Thanks very much, everybody. Thanks very much, Dan, and good morning, everybody. My name is Jeanette Stewart from Analysys Mason. We are a global management consulting firm working on technology, media, and telecoms. We're one of the sponsors of this event, so absolutely delighted to be introducing speakers this morning. Those of you who were here yesterday will know that we started on the topics that we will be continuing to discuss today about 5G strategies in Europe, especially as we move from initial 5G deployment towards more advanced services and increasing availability and take-up. We will be starting this morning with discussion on 5G rollout and strategies in Europe, and then we will be comparing with a presentation from the Telecommunications Regulatory Authority in India. We'll then be moving on in later sessions to discuss more detail of some of the topics that will come up in these discussions, first of all. So I would like to introduce, first of all, Alexander Soltysik, who will be presenting on the European perspective.
Good morning, everyone. Again, I have a pleasure to present you the 5G rollout and strategies in Europe. Today I have a bit more time, but no worries, I won't start from the big bang. But since the plan is to give you the holistic overview on the 5G rollout, although in the era of the new Commission and its unseen work program, I had no choice but to start from the big bang. Radio Spectrum Policy Program is together with us since 2012. It was the year of Felix Baumgartner jump from the space. And some of colleagues from UK know that's also the year of the Olympic Games in London. And also Euro in Poland and Ukraine. So anyone who loves Star Wars could say this was a very long time ago. I won't mention the objectives and the goals, they're pretty much known. I could say that Radio Spectrum Policy Group, in its opinion from 2021, already indicated that the need for the new RSPP. And I can only follow the wording that the future RSPP will support the key union initiatives in the, for instance, Gigabit Society and Digital Decade. The new Radio Spectrum Policy Program, so the so-called RSPP 2.0, was already in the pipeline in the Commission work program for 2023. So maybe we will come back to this in the near future, hopefully. So chronologically, we have received in 2016 the 5G action plan. The plan was that the Commission will work with the member states to identify by the end of 2016 a provisional list of pioneer spectrum bands for the initial 5G rollout. Taking due account the RSPG opinion on this. So, and we did it. Our opinion on 5G from 2016 indicated the strategic roadmap towards the 5G for Europe. So in that sense, the RSPG indicated 3.4, 3.8 megahertz band to be a primary band, the 700 megahertz band to enable nationwide coverage, and 26 gigahertz as the pioneer band. Then we also have a Digital Decade policy program with one key goal is that to have a secure, resilient, and sustainable digital infrastructure and a gigabit network for all populated areas in Europe. Then let's move on to the code. I won't dig into the details, of course. I would just, I've picked up some articles just to briefly reflect on the interlinks with the works within the RSPG and some already mentioned documents. So Article 4 reiterates that the main assumptions from the RSPP, so the member states shall cooperate with each other and with the Commission in strategic planning. We do this at the constant and daily basis. Article 28 refers to the good offices, which is embedded in the RSPG work program. The Article 35 refers to the peer review, and Article 54 indicates the deadline for the member states to auction the 5G bands. And here it is with the current status. The 26 is a special case because of not sufficient market demand, and particularly with regards to Poland, recently, I mean yesterday, our NRA just indicated that 4 MNOs submitted positively their offer for 700 and 800 megahertz blocks. I will go briefly through the work program to give you an update where we are with particular topics. Then the peer review. Here we, of course, took in consideration the views of the stakeholders. And although we are not going to change the work, we won't change the work of this subgroup. We are going to inform you, I mean, stakeholders about each notification and decision on establishing peer review. So after each peer review, we will prepare the interim report that will be part of our annual report, which is going to be released in February. So the decision will be taken in about coming days. Then the WRC. In the first phase, the subgroup on WRC was tasked to prepare the interim report on the outcome. The report on the outcome of the WRC. In the second phase, the subgroup will prepare the interim report on WRC, which is scheduled for this June 2025. The opinion will be much broader than the initial report because it will include the agenda items from the WRC 27 and include all the issues that could be in particular interest of the EU. The subgroup on the WRC met just yesterday, so yes, we are working heavily on this. On the side note, on the basis of the RSPG opinion, the Council of the European Union is adopting the position for the WRCs. This was the case of WRC 19 and WRC 23. And perhaps some of you were here yesterday. I mentioned about the breaking the silos and how we can, as the presidency of the current presidency of the European Union, make us stronger and more visible in the international fora such as ITU. So last Friday we managed to organize the workshop Brussels Geneva Interlinks, so where we invited for instance the chair of the ComITU, the chair of the CPG, and the previous presidency. So in that sense, we wanted to exchange our views, how we can strengthen ourselves, and how we can move better, how we can make it better to be to act less like a Team Europe in ITU. And last but not least, I think it's also in the previous report that we would like to, also with this workshop, we would like to raise the awareness for the upcoming presidencies that this is very important for us as the member states to be well prepared ahead of such huge events like WRCs. Okay, this is one of the key items where I think both sides were or maybe still are equally happy and unhappy. The outcome of the WRC 23 is pretty clear. So therefore, this work item should build on a long-term vision for the upper 6 gigahertz by providing recommendation on how to best organize the future of this band in Europe. The task is not easy, and we had to adjust the timing. So previously we had the final opinion scheduled for June, but we decided to move it for November. So also we also took the note that the Commission issued a mandate for the CEPT. So when it comes to the task 2, embedded already in the mandate, regarding the study of feasibility and scenarios of potential shared use between terrestrial systems of wireless broadband and WASH airlines, the CPD should also take in consideration the outcome of the RSPG work concerning this long-term vision for the upper 6 GHz band. Then we have a 6G strategic vision, and in the opinion that was delivered for the public consultation, we've noted that the EU needs to indicate in which spectrum band or bands the first launches of 6G are planned. Therefore, and this is also embedded in the work program and this work item, that after finalizing this main deliverable, we will continue our work and probably develop by the end of this year the roadmap for 6G. And this, of course, decision will be taken during the next plenary plan for February 12th. Okay, we are now in the sub 700. So one of the main key takeaways from the last opinion is the recognition that the possibility that in the next decade, I mean 2030, 2040, a single scenario may not be applicable to all member states. The RSPG also indicated that in case of decreasing need for broadcasting, other usages should also be available. So the subgroup right now is working on the workshop, on preparation of the workshop, which will broadly investigate the matter. The date is not yet set, but definitely we will manage to do so after the or during the plenary in February. The opinion/report is planned to be delivered in October 2025. Then the last work item is the strategic spectrum matters. This work item is very broad, which allow us to respond to just every papers and position delivered by the Commission. And thanks to this, the RSPG had the chance to react to the Commission's white paper. And we've been also tasked by the Commission to deliver the opinion on D2D, which will soon after the February's plenary will be sent to the public consultations. So this is all from my side. Thank you for the attention. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Alexander. I think you've raised some very interesting topics there about EU spectrum policy going forward, which I'm sure we will be talking about in more detail in the panel sessions over the rest of today. I do know we have some time available. Are you available for a couple of quick questions?
Yeah.
Okay, does the audience have any questions? I mean, if not, I'll maybe start with one. Oh, there's one at the back, actually.
Amit Nagpal from Ether Consulting. Just to first of all say that in the world of 5G, the RSPG's move to publish a draft opinion on the 5G spectrum bands was, I think, a complete game changer and very much got Europe back in the race. You know, all the focus had been on the US and South Korea, the 28 gigahertz band, and publishing those 3 pioneer bands, in particular the 3.5 gigahertz band. Really, you know, Europe was lagging well behind, and it got it back in. So a quick plea, can we try and do the same with 6G? Can we try and be the leaders in setting the pioneer bands out as quickly as possible? And hopefully we'll have a repeat of the world then following.
Thank you for this question. Well, definitely we will have to align with the ongoing works within the 3GPP. So I think the one of the most pivotal event is scheduled for March on the 6G workshop. And taking in consideration the work within the 3GPP and the status of the release 21, well, I think it is our aim to deliver this kind of roadmap again way ahead, so that the first initial launches could be ready for, I think, maybe 2029 or 2030. So we have very ambitious goals within this subgroup on 6G strategic vision and within the RSPG. So hopefully we will manage to do so.
Thank you very much, Amit. Are there any other questions? If not, well, Alexander, thank you very much. We will now move on to our second speaker, who is joining us via the video conference. So I would like to welcome Anil Kumar Lahoti, who is chairman of the Telecommunications Regulatory Authority in India. Hello, Anil, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Lovely. Well, thank you very much. Your voice is very clear. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah,
I think you have some slides.
Yeah. So may I request the slide to be displayed? Thank you. Thank you, Janet, and good morning to all those who are present in Brussels and or connected online for this European 5G conference. And I also take this opportunity to thank the organizers for inviting me to speak on this topic. So this is just a snapshot of where we stand in 5G today. India today has 464,000 5G base stations. We have 243 million 5G subscribers, and the data usage per month is 4.8 exabytes, and per subscriber it is 21 gigabyte. Next, please. So this slide shows how the 5G deployment has progressed in India. If we see, we have out of a total of about 3.65 million base stations catering to all the technologies, that is 2G to 5G. About 464,000 are 5G, which constitutes almost 13% of the total number of base stations. And the graph below shows how the deployment of base stations has progressed in the last 2 years. And from June 23 to November 24, it is now it is almost 70-80% increase. Next, please. So this is how the 5G data usage has been growing in India, and we can see from 0.84 exabyte in June 23, now it is already 4.8 exabyte, a very rapid growth in the data consumption on 5G. Next, please. So now I'll discuss some of the strategies that were adopted by India for the 5G rollout. India constituted a 5G high-level forum in 2017, and the members of this forum included the ministries of telecommunication, information technology, and science and technology. Academia were part of this, and also the telecom service providers were part of this 5G high-level forum. And their terms of reference were to develop the vision, mission, and goals for the 5G in India, and to evaluate and approve the roadmaps and action plan. Next, please. So this committee submitted its report in 2018 to make India 5G ready, and it gave a range of recommendations which covered the spectrum policy, the applications and use case labs, the technology demonstration, and major trials for the rollout. It also emphasized the importance of infrastructure densification and the need of swift clearance for the right of way, as this was seen as a major issue in the rollout of the 5G. Next, please. So some of the key recommendations of this 5G high-low level forum were first, regarding the spectrum policy, it was dealt in three bands. The below 1 gigahertz band, which is suitable for the MMTC and the high mobility EMBB broadband services. 1 to 6 gigahertz band, suitable for EMBB and URLLC type services. And the millimeter band, which for the low mobility and FWA services. So the spectrum policy recommendations were given under these three bands. Then, in respect of the applications and the use case for the use cases, the forum recommended for setting up of applications and use case labs, and it was proposed that these labs will provide multiple functions for testing, which includes interoperability testing for the new applications, fostering innovation in the 5G use cases, and to promote entrepreneurship to develop locally tailored solutions, which was considered important for the for arriving good use of the 5G. Now, also for enabling the rollout, trials were considered necessary and technology demonstration was considered necessary. So, for this purpose, the committee recommended for 5G trials, which will provide a learning opportunity to the service providers, to the academia, and the OEM industry. And under this recommendation, major global OEMs were invited to conduct 5G trials in India in collaboration with the local partners. Next, please. The government launched 5G testbeds to advance innovation and research in 5G, and this was done in collaboration with 8 institutes, which included IITs, IISc, and Samir and Chabit. And a allocation of $26 million was made for this project. Now, these test beds covered various aspects of the 5G testing, which included testing services for RAN level, PHY level, etc., for the narrowband IoT and visible light communication testing, for the G-Node B user equipment, end-to-end interoperability, for the baseband testing, for the V2X and 5G open source testing. Next, please. In order to generate the interest among the academia and the startups and the industry towards the 5G use cases, the government conducted a hackathon in 2020 where prizes were announced, and there was very good participation in this hackathon, and some very good use cases came out of this hackathon due to this participation. Next, please. So in May 21, the government announced experimental licenses to facilitate service providers to conduct trials for the use and application of 5G in the globally harmonized bands for 5G, that is 700 megahertz band, 3.5 gigahertz band, and 26 gigahertz band. Also, government provided E-band for the backhaul, and this trial was permitted for a period of 6 months. The objectives of the trial were for testing 5G spectrum propagation characteristics in the Indian context, model tuning and evaluation of the equipment and vendors, testing of the applications, and to test the 5G phones and devices. Next, please. So, various outcomes came out of these 5G trials from the major telecom service providers in India. For example, Bharti Airtel could bring out a user throughput of more than 3 Gbps on the 3.5 gigahertz band. And in the rural trial, they could achieve 200 Mbps over a distance of more than 10 kilometers. And by using 700 megahertz band, they could demonstrate coverage over a distance of 40 kilometers. Vodafone demonstrated the throughput through a 26 gigahertz spectrum, and the Reliance Jio demonstrated speeds in excess of 1 Gbps using indigenously developed equipment. Next, please. These trials also helped us in identifying certain interference issues. For example, in the mid-band, interference to broadcasting signals in C-band was noticed, and necessary interventions were done by replacing the filters in the television receive systems with appropriate cutoff frequencies. Next, please. Also, as it was considered necessary to reform the several aspects of the regulatory environment to facilitate the industry to roll out the 5G services. So, government came out with major reforms in the telecom sector in 2021, and to encourage investment, 100% foreign direct investment through automatic route was permitted. And in respect of the spectrum cost to be paid, while in the past, a service provider was also required to pay annual spectrum usage charges in addition to the acquisition cost, the spectrum usage charge was dispensed with. The bank guarantees required to be deposited against the license fee were reduced by 80%. And for auctions to be held henceforth, that is with the prospective effect, no bank guarantees were required to be given for the spectrum installment payments. Also, in order to give flexibility to the industry, surrender of spectrum was permitted after a period of 10 years. Next, please. One of the important issues to be addressed was the liquidity requirement of the service providers. And as there was a legacy issue and a history of legal battles with respect to payment of the dues on the spectrum charges, the government decided for a moratorium or deferment of the due payments of spectrum purchased in past auctions up to 4 years. And the government retained an option to convert the due amount uh, by way of equity and at the end of the moratorium or deferment periods, which gave significant relief to the industry. Next, please. In April 2022, TRAI recommended for the auction of spectrum in various bands, including globally harmonized bands for 5G, that is 700 megahertz band, 3.5 gigahertz, and 26 gigahertz bands. And TRAI in this recommendation also recommended for an annual payment scheme with no upfront payment requirement. This which would further facilitate investment in the spectrum procurement. Now, while these recommendations and all this was going on, government made parallel preparations for auctioning of the spectrum. And the good thing was that throughout the process, the operators were engaged in the preparations and the planning for 5G rollout. So they also made parallel preparations for their network planning and deployment. And on the basis of TRAI's recommendations, the government conducted the auction during the period of July to August 2022. Next, please. As a result of this auction, in the 700 megahertz band, now let me just give a little background. India as a country is divided into 22 licensed service areas, and the spectrum spectrum rights are auctioned license service area wise. So in 700 megahertz band, out of 25 megahertz spectrum put to auction, 10 megahertz spectrum was sold in this auction. In 3500 megahertz band, out of 330 megahertz spectrum put to auction, 250 megahertz spectrum was sold per LSA. And in the 26 gigahertz band, out of 2850 megahertz spectrum put to auction, 2000 megahertz was sold. Next, please. In addition, the government assigned spectrum in E-band for high capacity backhaul. Here, I would like to mention that the optical fiber is while optical fiber, though the most preferred medium, it was available only for 35% of the mobile tower sites. So there was a need to augment the backhaul capacity, and that could not have been met by the microwave, which was being used otherwise by the telecom service providers. So the government decided to allot two carriers of 250 megahertz in E-band for the purpose of backhaul. Next, please. Another issue which I have in the beginning mentioned was seen as a right of way in building the capacity. So a significant easing of the right of way permissions was done by carrying out right of way amendment rules in 2022. And some of the important aspects were like right of way application procedure for small cells was simplified, and the charges were very nominal charges were of the order of say $2 or $4 per annum were stipulated for using street furniture for the small cell deployment. And to carry the fiber also, the use of street furniture at a very nominal cost of little over $1 per annum was permitted. Also, poles up to 8-meter height and the towers around above 8 meters height. This was distinguished, and there was significant easing of the permissions for the poles which were less than 8-meter height. Next, please. So, and also the government has now, India has a portal where all infrastructure related clearances are processed through a single window clearance, and the right of way permissions for the telecom were brought on this platform so that there is a single window for seeking right of way. There were rationalization of fees and charges, and also in case a pole of less than 8-meter height is to be installed, no compensation for the land was required to be given. Next, please. The definition of the street furniture was given in details by the government so that there is no ambiguity at the field level while during the implementation. Next, please. Telecom Regulatory Authority of India also conducted pilots for the 5G small cell deployments in different situations, which included airport, smart city projects, at metro stations, as well as the ports. Next, please. And these recommendations were given to the government. So with all this preparation, the 5G services were launched in India in October 2022, barely a few months after the auction. Next, please. Further initiatives that are being taken to promote the 5G innovation include the government has awarded 100 5G use case labs to educational institutions in the month of October 23, and where the 80% of the capital funding and 100% of the operational funding for 4 years is being provided by the government to facilitate development of the use cases. Also, the government has introduced spectrum regulatory sandbox, that is the wireless test zones, so that the new technologies being developed can be tested in the lab environment. Next, please. So in the 2 years time, we can see now we have 243 million users have already subscribed to 5G, and the 5G constitutes nearly 21% of our subscriber base. Next, please. This graph shows the growth of the subscription of fixed wireless access services, which has emerged as one of the major use cases for the 5G deployment in India. And we can see that since March 24, when we had 680,000 FWA services, it has increased to 4.4 million FWA services already, and every month, almost 600,000 FWA connections are being taken. And as we are speaking, probably the figure is already more than 5.5 million connections of FWA, which is probably which is one of the largest in the world. Next, please. So with this, I thank all of you for patient listening. Now, and we are committed to utilizing the 5G technology for the growth of our economy and also for the betterment of society. And all our efforts are made in this direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Anil. I think it's been fascinating to hear how TRAI has created conditions for 5G to be developed in India with a focus on, I particularly liked your 5G hackathon and also the structural reforms aimed at encouraging rollout and investment. So thank you very much for your time. I believe we have no time for questions. Is that correct, Dan? Oh, we have time for one question. Great. Well, Anil, we had just gathered views and questions before this session, so I had a couple of questions. 5G use cases is one use case. 5G fixed wireless access is one of the use cases you just mentioned there, is very successful. Can you elaborate on initiatives for the other use cases, and also just perhaps relating to that, just talk to us about sort of broader evolving technology in the sector and how you're facilitating that?
Thank you. So we have seen about the FWA. I think that is a success story. Besides that, the TRAI, when we gave our recommendations regarding auction of the 5G, the TRAI also recommended a framework for private 5G networks and proposed multiple options for enabling the spectrum for and setting up of the captive non-public networks. So the options that were proposed by TRAI were considered by the government, and the government issued a policy for captive non-public network in June 2022. Now these guidelines provide that an enterprise could set up CNPN by obtaining spectrum either on lease from an existing access service licensee or by obtaining spectrum directly from the government. Alternatively, the access service licensee can establish CNPN for the enterprise, or the access service licensee may provide private network as a service to the enterprise. So all these options have now been facilitated in the policy. Now it is a case of evolution of the applications and the business case of the individual enterprises to see the proliferation of the CNPN in India. Now, besides this, in order to facilitate and encourage the use cases across different sectors, the government has constituted an interministerial committee with relevant ministries to facilitate collaborative efforts across the stakeholders. Government has also initiated a 5G vertical engagement and partnership program, that is 5G VPP, to build strong collaborative partnership across 5G use cases. Besides this, government has constituted a telecom startup MSME mission to facilitate ease of doing business and research and development for the startups and MSME. I've already mentioned about the 100 5G use case labs, which is a major initiative of the government. And government has also provided experimental licenses to all these use case labs. So this is about the 5G use. And regarding other initiatives of TRAI for the development of technology in the telecom sector, I would like to mention two major initiatives. The first one is regarding a regulatory sandbox, where we have recommended to the government a complete framework whereby a technology which has evolved in the laboratory and is required to be tested in the live environment in terms of either the technology or a new service or a new business model or a new application. So we have given a framework how it can be tested in a live network. And that framework enables for anybody having a lab-proven technology to carry out its testing in the live network before a commercial launch and to fine-tune the technology or the service itself. Another thing which I would like to mention is regarding the terahertz spectrum. So at present, as we know, the frequency spectrum beyond 95 gigahertz is lying vacant, and both industry and academia worldwide are actively engaged in research for various use cases for utilizing the terahertz spectrum, which includes 3D imaging holography, health screening, detection of skin cancer, material and gas sensing, robotic assemblies, etc. So in view of this futuristic potential and also the use of the likely use of the terahertz spectrum in the 6G, the TRAI has recommended a comprehensive authorization framework for the terahertz by way of experimental authorization. So, and the licensee is also permitted to market the experimental devices via direct sale, so that the entrepreneurs or the researchers are encouraged to invest in this in utilizing and develop products in the terahertz spectrum. And so this we feel will be helpful in developing terahertz technology in India. And besides that, we have also recommended for the authorization and assignment exempt operation for some of the terahertz ranges, such as 116 to 123 gigahertz, 174.8 to 182 gigahertz, 185 to 190 gigahertz, and 244 to 246 gigahertz, which would support the introduction of next generation wireless technologies that could be deployed both indoors as well as outdoors. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anil. I'm going to hand back to Dan now to introduce the next panel.
Perfect. Anil, thank you so much. Just to echo what Jeanette says, really do appreciate you joining us for that presentation. Thank you as well to Alexander for his overview from the RSPG side of thing, and Jeanette, of course. Thank you very much to you for introducing this session. So thank you all very much indeed.